Love that. Absolutely love that. I mean, seriously, you know,
Our intro for the actual episode graphic doesn't seem to be wanting to play today, so we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll be different today. Normally we have the intro graphic you're familiar with, Chason, with the Fighting for the Right to Party logo coming up, but yes, welcome to I would say a long overdue, very long overdue. Sharon, I apologize that your graphic didn't stay on the screen longer.
No, you know what? I love it. I love the music behind all the stuff you do. I love the intro outro video you created for us. I get so many people that say that is just fantastic, and I immediately tell them exactly where it came from. I'm like, we're not even gonna try to pretend that I was that creative, even though my keyboards and all my stuff are like right here in my office. I'm like, forget it, I couldn't have done that. So it's absolutely fantastic. I love it. I love what you're doing. I'm so sorry that Mac. You're gonna have to tell Mac, and when he looks back at this, I'm gonna say, Mac, you know what? The last 2 times I've been on the show, you've been sick. I don't know what's going on, but I'm feeling like, you know. No, seriously. I hope he's feeling better. It's got to be really crappy because this last round of COVID is just one that clings. Took me weeks before, and I'm asthmatic, so it took me weeks before I felt like I didn't have something sitting on my chest. So it's awful. What is happening with you?
And what's happening with me?
What is happening with you? What's going on with RockstarX?
Well, as you know, we've got in the full blown spirit of fighting for the right to be ourselves, which we will get onto in a few minutes as to what that means. Nothing political, I can assure our viewers. Enough of that crap. Currently,
right?
I'm going to stick something on the bottom as well. But yeah, we've got a new chief operations officer currently writing an entire essay down on several questions and working on a roadmap of where we're going to be going and what we're going to be doing.
Love it. I love Chason. I love Chason Grooms. I'm so thrilled. I saw he had been hinting kind of that he had some stuff going on with you, but he didn't say exactly what it was. He was being kind of cagey. And then I saw his post and I was like, I can't believe you just didn't text me this first. But because we text back and forth and talk about stuff, I've got some of his artwork sitting on my fireplace, on the mantle of my fireplace, and he is super talented guy. Got a lot of information going on, and his human-centered leadership program is just fantastic. For any of you out there that run a company or need someone to infuse human-centered leadership, or don't even know what that is, you should know what that is. And so Chason Grooms is doing that. That's fantastic. But I'm glad he's going to be working with you. So that's a good addition.
Yes. So fighting for the right to be ourselves. First of all, people I've been getting these messages in a lot. What the heck do you mean by that? And wouldn't that be too many times you mentioned the word fighting if your show is called Fighting for the Right to Party? But with being human, or with whether you are neurodiverse or whether you are indeed just plain diverse, you are constantly fighting and trying to stand out and be the person you are trying to be, and often fighting against the status quo as to what people want you to be. So, with that being said, let's start off with your journey. How exactly does that play into your park, Jason?
Well, I want to say one thing before I even share that. Last time we talked, when you were on stand up for change. We actually, it was a people community event that we did on a Saturday morning. It is the second highest ranking show that we've ever had live. I mentioned this to you before we started. It's
Yeah.
still on our YouTube, still getting follows, still getting people to come by. And it's because it resonates with people, because we dove into a lot of stats. You were prepared and put a bunch of stuff out there that I didn't even know. And you know that I shared with you that my youngest brother, who's no longer with us, had was autistic, and how people viewed my family. I come from a large family with a lot of boys, and he was the youngest. And Michael struggled with a lot of different things, but how people treated us. And I can't imagine him growing up and that changing, like him growing up to the place where he was learning to drive, and he was learning to get, he was, going for his first job interview, and how that works, because people are, and this is just a generalized comment, but a lot of people are, and a lot of employers and leaders do not make it a friendly environment for people that are different. And as you say frequently, different, not less. There are a lot of advantages and a lot of strengths that Michael had, and how he was loyal and how he cared about other people. And that empathy is something that is sorely lacking. So to answer your question now, being someone who we call neurodivergent, I don't know that I'm completely comfortable being in that box, because I don't like boxes. But I will say that as someone with ADHD and OCD and ADD, and someone that early on in life, when I was as a kid in school, I would get in trouble all the time, get sent to the principal's office, not because I was a bad kid, because I was 3 miles ahead. I was already, I'm like, I couldn't pay attention to this. It made me sleepy, or it made me frantic, or I got, there's too many people in class and I got anxious. So I spent a lot of time getting paddled, because in the United States, back when I was growing up, you could get paddled at school. And I would get paddled, and then they would tell me to run around the school, which is how, like, the track coach found me, and then the football coach found me. And then it's like, I got into sports because there's this lunatic running around the school, and they're like, who is this kid? And he just keeps on going. Like, there has to be a better way. There has to be a place and a way for leaders and business owners and community leaders to understand the value of opening up the doors from not only just the diversity, diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. We talk about allyship. We talk about all of this, and it's really been a hot button since 2019. But even more so, we've got to do a better job of inclusion, of including people that are different,
Yeah.
that are not like us, and understanding, recognizing those differences, being okay with those differences, being okay to open the doors, learn how you can make the place more comfortable for them by asking questions and listening. And we're not doing enough of that. So I applaud what you do on a daily basis with RockstarX, and who you are, just as Joel, showing up and being who you are, to say, it's not, we've got to move beyond awareness now. We've got to move to action. We've got to create actionable change. And so that to me is why it's important, and why I think, why I'm part of it, and why we are, with our nonprofit, are connected to you, because we think what you do is fantastic.
And what you're doing as well is amazing. It's just a bloody shame you're not doing it for the UK as well, because this system over here is also broken.
not right this second, but trust me when I tell you that, we would love to have a place in the UK, and I would love to have it as we put transformation kitchens and our programs in other countries. We're going to open the doors to include some of our brothers and sisters that are doing other things. People like yourself. We're going to include the means to, provide coding, to start doing communications training and other training besides culinary, so that we can be really well rounded and offer even more students the opportunity to grow, thrive, and earn a living wage.
Or go out on their own and build their own company and empire. But
I'm reading this comment.
Oh,
from
I
Enoch.
haven't even seen the comment yet. Let's
Yeah. It's from LinkedIn.
Hello, Enoch. I mean, Mac does have his uses. By that I mean in lives, he's the only one who has about 6 screens. So he knows exactly who's actually here. Unfortunately, I don't have that privilege or the money.
I got it. And it's an interesting comment, and I appreciate it, Enoch. I think that the whole point is that we're different, and we're forging our own path, and that's what matters, is that we band together to forge that path and talk about how we move from awareness to action and how we create the change. And that's really, it's like, what are we doing to create actionable change? Because that's where we need to be now.
One thing to do actually will change everything. I believe happens from the top. So to get, now I don't know how you would even get governments interested in talking to you guys and talking in front of you about change and actually actioning it from the top, because most people in society are like a herd of sheep or cattle. Literally, and the governments are like the shepherds or the Pied Piper of and so if you do start from the top, kind of the domino pyramid effect, really, where it literally falls in line. But with that being almost impossible to actually achieve, because no one wants to listen to reason apart from a few select people, certainly not ones in politics, or if they do, they want to do it at their own pace and when they're ready, and they want to become their idea. But if you can't go to them, make enough waves, and then they and everyone else will come to you and say, "Oh, you're doing something. This is extraordinary. I want to know more."
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree. I believe, Margaret Mead has a great quote, and it's never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. I keep it on my desk along with another poem from Marianne Williamson about not shrinking ourselves for society. And I believe that one person can make a change. I believe that people can influence a massive amount of others by just being themselves authentically and showing up. And I think that's really the biggest thing, is like what you say. If you want to make a domino effect, start affecting your community, start affecting the people around you, start having an impact on those that are closest, and watch how that grows and watch what happens. And I think you're spot on, because people will catch on. I don't want there to be more rhetoric. I don't want more laws in place that there's going to be
No.
agencies that have to sit and try to enforce those laws. That already is not working. We have all of that in the States. I don't know about the UK, but in the United States, we have that in spades. And they're so far behind, and it's so antiquated, and it's so
They have laws here as well. And they just can't be bothered enforcing them.
yeah, man.
Or getting the enforcement wrong, and then having to backtrack. No, that's not what we meant. That's not what we meant. But yeah, really, if we obviously, I mean, you probably agree with me with this, but if autism was accepted and neurodivergence were accepted and everyone was accepted to being who they are, and who they want to be, there would be very little for us to do. Which would be nice, but it would at the same time be sad because
no, we just shift to doing something.
yeah,
We just shift to creating better spaces. We just shift what we do. It doesn't mean that we wouldn't have anything to do. It just means that we would shift our focus to furthering the cause even more, because there's always going to be people that care about things more than they do other individuals. As long as there's greed, as long as there's politics, as long as there are people that only care about stuff versus other human beings, and I don't see that changing, but I do see a revolution of more people saying, and I'm not going to take this, and I'm not going to stand up for this, and it's not okay with me that you treat me in this way. And I think that revolution that we see happening in the workforce, this dumpster fire of, hey, we're going to light this up because we're not going to stay in this. We're not going to work the way we used to. You're not going to treat me the way you used to. I'm not going to take this. I'm not going to stand for this. Whether it's quiet quitting or all these other terms that people want to say, it doesn't matter. The basis is that people are fed up. They've had enough. And so I think we're opening up these doors, and we're breaking free from these shackles that, like, hey, you know what? I care about money and I want to take care of my family, but I'm not going to do it this way. I'm not going to do it this way any longer.
But that concept is very interesting. Very interesting what you said about that. What people are currently doing, but that concept is not new, and certainly, unfortunately, apologies everybody. I could not obtain the rights to use Twisted Sister song today. Unfortunately, Dee Schneider wouldn't answer my calls. But I think that even in the 80s, I mean, I wasn't around at that point. I wasn't around in the 90s, but even the 80s and 70s, even the hippie era, and really going back to the 40s, I mean, people had already had enough back then.
I think it comes in waves. I think there's I think one of the most powerful movements were probably in the 60s, and when you were talking about civil rights and this movement of individuals to be like, hey, this is not okay, and we're going to keep going until some major changes have happened. We've come a long way since then, but there's still a lot of inequity.
Yeah.
And when you start looking at pay equity within organizations, and you look at a female person of color and what they make versus a white male, there is a huge gap, and it's consistent and it's widespread. So there are still a lot of things to be done. It's not where it was, but it's not where it needs to be.
And
And so those are steps that need to be taken. I'm really referring to now, in my humble opinion, what I see from younger generations that are saying, you know what, I don't care what you boomers did, because that's my wife and I, we're in that boomer category. You know, when you look at boomers and you look at the people, even, you know, my elders, you know, that are leaving the workforce in droves now, and
yeah,
all of these younger generations that are coming in, and they're like, no, I'm not going to work 80 hours, and I'm not going to take this low pay, and I'm not going to do these things. I'm not going to do what my father and his father did. I'm not going to do those things. I'm going to show up and I'll work hard, but I expect you to pay me, and I expect you to give me good benefits, and I don't want to be laid off, and I don't want you to hire 4,000 people we don't need and not listen to me. I want you to listen, and I want you to give me space to be myself. I think that's the change I'm talking about. And I see that more and more these days as other generations start to have more of a hold on the workforce, and as we see more things like AI and tech come into play, that I think we're seeing changes that absolutely can make a difference. And it's like you said, you know, it isn't something new. Grassroots is
no,
not something new, but I think there's always going to be a new battle, and
yeah.
that's where it is. Hey, what's the new battle right now for you and I?
It's neurodiverse and diversity and inclusion and
And living wage for everyone. Yeah, let's stop making it where only certain groups can make a living wage. Everybody make a living wage. Let them take care of themselves and their families.
but what I think is, I don't know whether it's funny, sad, or just plain delusional, but that it certainly doesn't make any sense. The people who ran companies, founded companies, um, invented stuff, had ideas, did all sorts hire, and then they hire neurotypicals to work for them, but they're neurodiverse. And they are also college and high school and any other dropout you care to mention, but they are throwing their own community under the bus in a way that doesn't sit right.
You think that's because they're embarrassed, or do you think that that's just because the people even higher up the chain than them are putting that pressure on them to do what's always been done?
I'm not entirely sure because if you're a founder, I don't know how much more high you can go really than
It's
that.
true.
Um, but I've been thinking about why it's almost so impossible for people to land their dream jobs, even with a college education and the university and graduate degrees, or postgraduate, undergraduate degrees, and it's I think partly due to the people who running the company, have founded the company, and CEOs of that company. not knowing how to do it themselves, number one, and number two, setting what we see the bar as being too high, and what they think is absolutely obtainable for anyone who lands a college, who goes to college or university. Not everyone is cut out for university if you're neurodivergent or any education, and not everyone is going to be able to get the high standards in the way you want the high standards. They'll be able to get the high standards, but maybe not in the way you want them to use it in your company. And then they are moaning as to, and then the governments and the boards and organizations come down on them saying, you haven't hired any neurodiverse people, why have you not done this, and you need to be more inclusive and stuff. I'll tell you why they haven't done it. Most of their resumes end up in the bin before they all the garbage before they even get to the interview stage. So neurodiverse founders tell their managers to hire people, but the managers and the people who are responsible for hiring don't want to hire these people.
Well, I think, again, this comes when we're talking to leaders about how to create change. We talk to them about how you make your entire process, from the time you're creating the job ad and the language you're using to every step in the process to bring people onboard them. What's their work schedule look like? How do they work? What do you require from them? What is the sensory agents around them? Learning to ask people questions, the right questions, learning to listen, learning to have the empathy and the care and compassion to want to do the right things. I was on a conversation not too long ago with a whole bunch of DEI experts, all in different fields, companies approaching the same subject, but all coming from DEI.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing was that we took a post that was from one of the people that's a partner with us, that's just absolutely fantastic, Desiree Goldie. And she had looked at a job posting and had broken it down. She didn't call out the people that had put the post up there, but she broke down the language. And it starts in that language. When you're putting a job advertisement out, you're looking to hire someone, how you structure, what you say, the words you use, and how you structure it. It tells a story all in itself about who you are, what your culture is, what you believe, all in the span of whatever that is. Yeah. It's a first impression. And for me, before we even got into the conversation and they read the job posting, my hackles were up, man. I was like a rabid dog. Like this, I felt so angry and so incensed because I'm sitting here listening to this and they're reading it to me. And the more they read, the more triggers went off. And I was just like, this is incredible. How does this person have a job? How is this person hiring and responsible for other people when they don't even get it? They just don't get it. And that happens all the time. It's all over the place.
Well, if you, I understand fully if you can't share it with me, but after this, I would love to see that.
I will show you that. There's actually a link to the conversation on our YouTube channel, and I'll send it to you because it was a great conversation. And they read the art in the beginning after we do our introductions and everything, not even 5 minutes in. Kylie Van Leeuwen from Elevated Coaching and Consulting Global, she reads this part of the post. And that's just like, holy cow. But, again, it's got to be, it's got to be something from it has to be something where you're intentional. You have to have the intentionality that you are going to do everything you can to remove biases, to remove inflammatory language, to really be inclusive and open up the doors for neurodiverse and other groups to be part of the conversation. And that takes a lot of intentionality, takes a lot of opening the doors and correcting space. And sometimes people don't want to do it.
It is, sometimes, and others, they just tick boxes. I mean, for example, I don't know if this has been, say we'll just say a certain company that we all use on the internet every single time we're greeted in some of our web pages, have an autism neurodiverse program, but only this is what really is strange, only for existing employees inside the company. Only for existing employees.
This is a great question, Jason Groups. Jason, thanks for joining on here.
How do we overcome? Yes.
Yeah. That's an excellent question.
How do we overcome the subtle subtext that NTs use? So how do we avoid a slap in the face? That is a good question. I don't actually have an answer, which is not normal.
Well, you know what? Jason's and Jason, if you just joined, I was blowing you up on earlier in the conversation, so you have to listen back, my friend. But I appreciate what you do. Human-centered leadership is fantastic. I love that you're going to be the COO with this fine gentleman on the other side of the screen here with
my
me.
job yet.
My version of this is everything starts with listening. Everything starts with opening space. Everything starts with
a conversation,
having a conversation and asking questions and really wanting the information, not checking a box, not ticking and saying, hey, I'm going to do this so that we can say that we are inclusive, but really doing the work.
Yeah.
And so how do we overcome? I think we overcome by being intentional, by listening, and then by doing. It's great to do all the work and be awareness and to say we're going to make changes, but what do those changes look like? Getting to the root of what people actually need. Absolutely. Really,
and
that's awesome.
And it's also okay not to know what the changes will look like because they haven't happened yet. Every single recruiter or manager or whoever is responsible for implementing changes doesn't need to know what it will look like. They just need to know how they'll implement it or what the ideas are. So instead of saying how will it look like, what are the steps that you want to take to achieve this outcome would be a far more sensible question.
You're talking about if you were speaking to someone that you were bringing in?
Any organization. I mean, big or small. If the question was, instead of what will this look like? And people's default answer is, I don't know. That's correct, you don't know. It's not been created yet. That's why we're asking you. So instead of saying, what will it look like? What would your plan of action be going forward to make this more accessible for people?
Well, I like how
Your employees.
Jason put it. I mean, what do you need? You know,
Yeah.
we were basically talking about it, you know, by listening and then putting that into action, doing better. But what do you need in order to make this work for you? And what kind of environment? And I think, and we mentioned it earlier as well, is like, okay, that could include sensory things. That could be, there could be a lot of components, but how do we move just beyond ADA and like, okay, I'm going to give you a Varidesk that, you know, because you need to stand sometimes or whatever. I'm not talking about just those components. I'm talking about, what do you need to thrive? You know, how can I make a position here for you where you're going to thrive, and because you're going to engage and you're going to thrive and we're going to thrive with you, we're going to be better for it and you're going to be better for it. How does all that work together? And I think that starts with listening and being very intentional about what you do with the information.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Absolutely. Very, very well done, Jason. My God, your questions are coming through nice. Your questions are coming through well today with what you're currently doing. But I'm going to stick something across the screen which might help people gauge the tone of someone's message as well, because obviously what one says in the text is what one says in the text can be interpreted wrongly, and that is a problem. Obviously, if you're first of all, anyone, and secondly, especially if you're neurodiverse. So this tool is rather useful. I was told about it. This one won't be a scrolling. This one will just be normal. And feel free, Chason, to share it with your community as well. If you've not heard of this little tool,
Goblin Tools. All right, very cool.
Nice little app which you can put any text which you get into it, or any article, whatever, and then it will tell you the tone of what you reply back. So it will tell you the tone of what it is, and then or what the article, what the text or whatever is trying to say, and then you reply back accordingly, which is very useful if you I have stuck with. If you can't gauge in a conversation, a tone from a text message or a message or an email or whatever.
And Enoch and Jason, you guys are both on the West Coast too, so you guys connect as well. Really good point. Both Jason and
great point.
Yeah,
Enoch,
fantastic.
Point. Fabulous point. So Jason, what's what would be next for HR for you? I mean, and also I want to know, if we've got the time, how you came up with the kitchen bit of it, because as far as I'm aware, kitchens normally made with food, normally having food in them and stuff. So that you can tell.
That's an easy one. So I grew up in the culinary world. That's where I started. That was my very first career, that I spent over 20 years in the culinary world, worked my way up. And I was the guy that, even though in the earlier parts of my journey, I struggled because I was a drug addict and I had a lot of problems. I had a lot of demons, a lot of unresolved issues from my childhood, and things that just made me not a very happy person. And I wasn't very kind to myself, and I didn't like the person that was on the other side of the mirror staring at me. And it caused me a lot of problems. But I was very fortunate that I had decent skills and I was able to work in the culinary world. They liked me because they felt like I trained people well, that I cared about people, that I was quick to learn myself.
Yep.
They didn't realize that that was just part of who I was. And, I am very meticulous. So that whole mise en place thing that we talk about, everything in its place,
Yep.
it's just part of my neurodiversity. It's just like I come and I sit down at a table when I go out to eat and I have to move everything because it bothers me. I can't sit. So I mean, being in that kind of environment was very cathartic, and I was able to teach that mindset of everything in its place, and having start here and go here. Like I was able to explain it to people in a way that they could understand it, they liked it, and people stayed with us longer. So I started finding out what HR meant. What is human resources? Because there wasn't human resources back in those days. Human resources was having a come to Jesus meeting out by the dumpsters out back. It's like, man, you're screwing up, dude. So I took a different approach and started learning, as Jason calls it, human-centered leadership. I started learning what that meant, what it meant to be a leader, what it means to guide people. And that is how my progression went, and it affected everything that I've done to this day. And so Transformation Kitchen for us, this part of the program, which by the way, we're doing our March for Good. As you know, we're doing our March
Yep.
for Good fundraiser
All
this
right.
week.
I'll bring that up. I'll bring that up now while you're still talking. Carry on.
This is Transformation Kitchen for us is a way to beat food insecurity. It's a way to tackle socioeconomic issues like poverty, and homelessness and living wage, pay equity, by putting all of our grassroots programs that we've been doing since 2022 into boots on the ground. It's a way for us to put the physicality and intentionality behind what we do at HR4U Incorporated, our nonprofit here in the States, and put it into physical action of creating a physical kitchen that teaches people power skills, life skills, culinary skills, and they end up either working for the kitchen itself as we grow and we open for lunch and catering, but also for vetted culinary partners who agree to pay a living wage and give benefits to the people coming out of the program. So this has a huge rippling effect on people. It doesn't just affect the 60 plus people that come out of the program. Yeah. It's their families, their friends, their community that's changed. And that's what we want to do. And that's what we want to create in multiple states and multiple countries. And, so that's why we partner with people like you. That's why we partner with people like Jason. And we are moving the needle forward.
That's amazing. And seriously, I'm in the UK, so unfortunately, well, the walk and run I can do. Yeah. We
just share it, man.
We don't have swimming pools left, right, and centre over here. We have public ones which charge an absolute fortune, and that's about as far as it goes. No, we don't get them in the back gardens here. Not unless the rain starts, and then we get them anyway. But
well, the whole purpose of the program is to level the playing field for underserved communities. That opens the door up. Opens the door up for a lot of different people to not only get involved with what we do, but to be part of it from the ground floor. So
I love that. Jason. That's the wrong one. So, we have got literally, let's see if I can do this right, 13 minutes. We always like to do our most of our podcasts are normally an hour. Unfortunately, when Mac's here, it's normally over that, which he always says an hour, and then we never we never seem to be able to stick to it. But so in the immediate short term, Jason, what can the people who are watching, some of which I really can't see, all of which I actually can't see, who's watching and who isn't, what can the people watching, and of course, what people who may be catching up on this later on, yeah, unlike TV in this country, you don't need a license to watch this on the internet.
Nope. Once
But
it's out there, it's out there, man.
Yeah. What's your what can people do now to start shifting the for wanting a better word, cesspool of society and changing the narrative?
I think you show up daily. I think you start listening. You show up daily. You don't allow things to. You don't stand by and watch things happening when they're not right. You help out yourself, your family, and those around you. You share. It doesn't cost anything to share what you're doing, what I'm doing. What other great organizations are doing. It doesn't cost anything to do that. Share that information, shout it out to the rooftops, talk to people, in conversations and introduce people together. It's free. And that kindness is something that certainly will be reciprocated. It is the easiest way with the least amount of effort that you can create change is just by latching on to organizations that are doing that you resonate with and getting involved in whatever capacity you can. And Jay, one of the things that I love about Jay Grooms is not only is he doing stuff with you, he's also on our advisory board. And this guy, he's got so much going on in his life, but he still manages to give us time to put his perspective in, to show up and give advice. And it's incredible. But even if you don't have that kind of time, you can't volunteer, you don't have the finances to give to an organization, you still can share what they're doing. And it needs to resonate with you. It needs to be something that's authentic, but it doesn't cost you anything to share what other organizations are doing. So that's why we share what you're doing. That's why we show up. You've been on our show, and we've been on your show.
I need to start sharing your stuff as well. I've been trying to get the badge like you've got on your LinkedIn profile the last few weeks.
I see that, and I keep liking all your stuff every time it pops up.
Bloody difficult.
Yeah, it's
especially the ones which I picked.
Well, it just happened. I just answered some questions. They asked me to answer some questions. I answered some questions. So it's funny to me. I wasn't even going to tell anybody, but our president, our board president, Felicia, she's like, nope, I already created a graphic. You're going to post this stuff out. You got to tell people about it. I'm like, all right.
And we could have done the graphic for you.
Hey, you already did that great video. That's fantastic. I need to do another one, maybe with a timer.
Yeah, no problem. I love this one. I love this. Yep. It's a constant stream.
That's the grassroots.
Yeah. So, also, Jason, this is a new thing which I see sometimes on on one of my friends' channel, which I actually helped with in the earlier days. Knowing what you'll do now, What would you ask your? What would you advise your younger self?
Ooh, well, there's a million things I'd tell my younger self besides probably slapping him across the head and be like, "Listen, dude." But I would say get out of your head, and stop telling yourself that you're unworthy. Stop stop beating yourself down, telling yourself you're unworthy. Get out of your head, do what you love, and start caring about yourself. So that was be what I would tell my younger self.
That's a very important message, and I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I wish I had known what I did now back then. But if I did that back then, I wouldn't. I would. Well, I would still know what I knew back then now, but I would still know what I know now. But I wouldn't necessarily be any wiser if I knew it back then. Because at that point, I was still young, stupid, and I love this one as well. One of the hardest. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It is that is true. I mean, I still, yes, I passed my driving test, but it's. I feel like I feel like I'm an imposter. Why am I driving? This is not right. So because I was waiting 12 years to actually get a license. Now I'm like, this is weird. Um, uh, and I shouldn't be doing this, but now you know what I should be. I probably shouldn't have been doing it 12 years ago, and they were quite right. It wasn't the right time. Everything comes at the right time.
Agreed.
And I saw my only video before my camera broke on my personal channel. Everyone, the world is made up of unique. Everyone is unique, and as soon as society gets that into their heads, not only will it be a better place, but if you then realize that you're unique and you want to create and you want to change the world, you want to create something, well, you will have something wonderful by the end of it. It really is. If you believe in what you're doing, no matter the bullshit you faced along the way, including your own brain telling you to just get off your ass and get a normal job, because that's what you've been told to do through your life to achieve stability. By the way, that may be true for some people, but seriously, if you're creative and you're out of the box thinker, and as Jason says, a trailblazer, then create your own destiny, and only once you do that will then and it becomes reality, then you've effectively are on the way to achieving what you were sent to this planet for.
Love it. Love it. That's fantastic. Right here at the ending, you like drop the mic. Yep. There you go.
Is there anything you want to add, Jason?
No, man, this has been a great conversation. I always love talking to you. I appreciate you having me on your show. And I appreciate
talking to you as well.
Enoch and Jason and anybody else who showed up and we couldn't see. And I know that we'll get a lot of people that will see this on our YouTube channel. So I'm excited about that. But no, fantastic, man.
Feel free to edit anything you want to on your. I believe it's you can StreamYard does allow you to do that now, and if anyone in the audience wants to create stuff like this, I don't know about you, Chason, but I have an affiliate link of StreamYard, so
Nice.
if anyone does want to create videos like this, then that link is coming on the screen for the last 5 seconds before we end this. If I can find it, that would be very helpful. If I can find it, yes. No, that's not it. No. There we go. There's the link. And I believe you get a month free trial. I can't remember. I haven't been on that for a while. Or 2 weeks free trial. Anyway, yeah. So if you do want to create a video like this and do live streams, this is the user friendly platform. I wouldn't know what the other ones are like. I haven't yet tried them. But at the end of the day, they all do the same thing. Just like
There you go.
Just like if you're neurodiverse or neurotypical. It doesn't matter if you're programmed differently. You can still, on the outside, if you do the same thing, you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you come home, you relax. Same thing. The same thing as everyone else. Doesn't really matter if you're wired differently. Just matters that you get the same results in a different way. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a real pleasure. Chason, thank you so much for coming on for albeit a bit late coming on for, but thank you so much for eventually coming on, and we'll see you all again in the next live episode. Thank you again, everyone. Again.